Hello gardeners, welcome to the Living Soil Lab. Imagine a grain field, without a single weed, no more backbreaking weeding, no expensive herbicides, just pure, abundant grain. In this video, I'm revealing my revolutionary no-till secret that makes weedless grain a reality for anyone, transforming your harvest and saving you countless hours. Last season, I stood between two grain patches separated by nothing more than a footpath, yet they looked like they belonged on different planets. On one side, my traditional tilled wheat struggled to compete with lamb's quarters, pigweed, and crabgrass that seemed to sprout faster than the grain itself. Each morning brought new invaders requiring hours of hand-weeding that left my back screaming and my motivation crushed. On the other side, my no-till experimental plot stood pristine, with thick, vigorous grain stems creating a living canopy so dense that not a single weed could penetrate. The difference wasn't luck or endless labor, but rather understanding one fundamental principle that conventional agriculture has spent a century ignoring. The transformation from weed-infested struggle to effortless abundance hinges on recognizing that tillage itself creates the weed problem it claims to solve. Every time you turn soil, you're essentially hitting the reset button on succession, exposing dormant weed seeds to light and air while destroying the complex fungal networks that give established plants competitive advantage. My no-till method works because it eliminates this disturbance cycle entirely, allowing your grain crop to establish dominance from day one, while keeping millions of weed seeds locked in darkness where they remain dormant indefinitely. The genius of weedless grain production extends far beyond simply avoiding tillage or piling on thick mulch layers. It really requires understanding soil ecology at a level that transforms how you think about cultivation itself. In undisturbed soil, weed seeds can actually remain viable but dormant for decades, just waiting for the disturbance signal that tells them conditions are right for germination. That signal comes primarily from exposure to light, temperature fluctuations, and the sudden oxygen influx that happens when soil structure breaks apart during tillage. By maintaining a permanent soil surface and establishing your grain crop without disruption, you're essentially putting the entire weed seed bank into suspended animation. The second critical element involves fostering mycorrhizal fungal networks that give your grain crop what I like to call first mover advantage in the competition for nutrients and water. These beneficial fungi form symbiotic relationships with grain roots, extending their nutrient gathering capacity by hundreds of times, while simultaneously producing compounds that suppress competing plants. Tillage destroys these fungal highways every season, forcing plants to start from scratch and, honestly, leveling the playing field for weeds. But in no-till systems, these networks persist and strengthen year after year, creating this underground infrastructure that really favors your established grain crop over any opportunistic weeds trying to get a foothold. Starting your first no-till grain bed means rethinking everything you know about seedbed preparation, beginning with the realization that, actually, you don't need bare, fluffy soil to achieve excellent germination. So, select your grain patch location in late summer or early fall, then cover the entire area with overlapping layers of corrugated cardboard, making sure there are no gaps where weeds might sneak through. Next, wet the cardboard thoroughly so it lays flat and begins the decomposition process that'll integrate it into your soil structure over the coming months. Then, top this cardboard layer with about 2 to 4 inches of quality compost or aged manure, creating a nutrient-rich growing medium right on the surface, without disturbing the soil structure beneath. The cardboard serves as a transitional barrier that suppresses existing vegetation and weed seeds, while allowing grain roots to eventually penetrate downward into the native soil below. This layering technique, really mimics natural succession, where plants establish on top of decomposing organic matter, rather than in disturbed mineral soil, creating conditions that strongly favor your grain crop. When planting time arrives in early spring for cool season grains like wheat, oats, or rye, or late spring for warm season options like amaranth or sorghum, go ahead and broadcast your seed directly onto the compost surface at rates slightly higher than conventional recommendations. The increased seeding density, typically 20 to 30% above standard rates, ensures your grain establishes a dense canopy quickly enough to shade out any opportunistic weeds. After broadcasting, just rake the seeds lightly to ensure good soil contact, then cover with a thin layer of straw mulch that protects seeds from birds while maintaining the darkness that keeps weed seeds dormant. The proof of weedless grain growing reveals itself most dramatically at harvest when you're cutting through pure stands of grain rather than sorting wheat from weeds. My no-till wheat yielded 48 bushels per 1,000 square feet compared to 32 bushels from an adjacent tilled plot, with the difference explained entirely by the tilled area's weed competition and the energy those plants wasted fighting invaders. The harvest process itself becomes faster and more enjoyable when you're not constantly stopping to clear pigweed and grass from your scythe or combine. Beyond yield numbers, the grain quality from no-till plots consistently surprises me with fuller kernels and deeper flavor profiles that taste testers attribute to the complex soil biology supporting plant health. Undisturbed soil maintains better moisture retention through dry spells, meaning your grain experiences less stress and produces more consistent kernel development. Over multiple seasons, I've watched soil structure improve dramatically in no-till areas, with earthworm populations exploding and soil aggregation creating that perfect crumbly texture that conventional tillage can never achieve. The pest and disease pressure in no-till grain systems drops noticeably as beneficial insect populations establish permanent habitat in the undisturbed edges and residues. Predatory ground beetles, parasitic wasps, and spiders build up to levels where they provide natural pest control that keeps aphids and other grain pests below damaging thresholds. Meanwhile, the diverse soil microbiology in no-till systems appears to suppress soil-borne diseases through competitive exclusion and antibiotic production by beneficial organisms. The most common concern I hear about no-till grains involves whether this method works across different grain types and soil conditions, and honestly, the answer is a resounding yes with just a few minor adaptations. Heavy clay soils benefit from extra compost in the initial airing to improve surface drainage, while sandy soils may need thicker mulch layers to maintain adequate moisture. Any grain species adapted to your climate will thrive in no-till systems, from ancient wheats and barley to modern oats and even specialty grains like quinoa or millet. Start small with a 100-square-foot experimental plot this season, documenting your results with photos and yield measurements that will convince you this isn't gardening fantasy, but, practical reality. The method scales beautifully from backyard patches to market garden operations, with the labor savings and improved yields becoming more dramatic as you expand. Ready to grow grain without the weed struggle? Subscribe to the Living Soil Lab for more techniques that work with nature's wisdom rather than against it. And hey, share this guide with anyone tired of fighting weeds in their grain patches.